Hello, today we are at Shane Berry Cemetery in Quincy, Kentucky, and we're just off of Route 8. This is Quincy, Kentucky in Lewis County. We're just off Route 8. You can hear it, traffic there in the background. So just behind the post office and first property to the left. This was a request that we had seen on Facebook. So we went out and see what we could find. So Berry Shane Cemetery is has a new fence around it. The Lewis County Historical Society listed that it's not in maintained condition, but we spoke with the property owner and they've maintained it at least once this year. But like any cemetery, it's constant maintenance. So if you're an ancestor or a descendant rather, we're looking for a service project, this would be a good one. Just needs a little bit of weed eating. So we are at the grave of Dr. John W. Berry, May 4th, 1844 to September 23rd, 1910. And it looks like his wife, Lavina V. So we've already went through and photographed all these. So we're just going to do a walkthrough right now. Kind of show you. So this part of the cemetery was 32 feet wide and 50 feet long. And it's actually broken up into 3 separate cemeteries, similar to family plots. So here we have the grave for William Berry, January 1st, 1862. He may not be buried here as there's no death date, but his wife is. He was born in 1862 and died in 1911. We did bring a probe with us because, all reports was that this wasn't maintained. So when we see that, we know we're going to have some vegetation, some briars, some laurel, horseweed, and a lot of times with that comes down stones, and we don't want to miss anybody. So we'll use a probe to find markers and clear them off, such as this Shane marker. George W. was born in 1855 and died in 1918. And then Ruby B., who was born in 1864 and it looks like died in 1931. So we're in the middle of the cemetery. Pan around here. We have a base for a Berry. And then we have, I believe this was for James Niles. So this is an interesting one. This one is actually the tablet portion of it. And then here we have another Niles. This one is a huge marker. Lyles. Sorry, not Niles, Lyles. James N. Lyles. So that's the tablet portion we just saw. And here we have a base, another base. Then in between we would have had a capstone. And then on top of that we would have had a finale, or the base for a finale, and the finale. So this would be multiple segments. But like any really tall headstone, it's going to have a high center of gravity and a tree strike or roots growing up underneath it or the soil compacting underneath. Those will tip out of alignment and the stone will, fall apart, either fall straight down or the mortar between the sections will give way and it will fall. Even ones that have iron pins. So here we have a wrought iron fence that separates these 2 parts of the cemetery. So we have, looks like Katie Berry, daughter of we'll have to go with the photos for this. That's Katie Berry, died May 16th, 1891. We go down here and we have, let's get in close. Ina A., daughter of J.W. and Clara Berry, died in 1899, so she looks like she's only almost a month old. Pan over here. So we have Shane, that's the surname. We have Mary, Lewis, and Pascal Shane, and they're here in the very corner. And directly above them is the other cemetery, and there's a locally quarried stone wall with an iron fence on top of it. So from the furthest extent of the Berry Shane Cemetery, we'll look up, we'll make our way back. And then we have what would have been a wrought iron gate. There's the gate portion of it as it entered into the corner. This is one that we'll probably need to go with the D2, but I believe that says little Beatrice L. And looks like the last name is Cornett. And born August 24th, 1885, died January 17th, 1890. So this, when we found this was covered in ivy. It actually, going to many old rural cemeteries, it looked like a tree stump. It was just so, you can kind of see the vines there we pulled off of it. Pan over this way. There's a pretty big gap between those two markers, so there might be more there. Here we have the grave of Ellen Nadine, daughter of George and Jeanette Dalton, born February 5th, 1924, and died April 29th, 1926. It's a really pretty marker. And we go down here. This appears to be the last grave. Maybe, maybe not. Let me get up here and get it in frame. So this is the grave of John C. Moore, who was born in 1861 and died in 1925. And the property owner told us a story about a couple years ago where a family from Piketon, Ohio came down, and they said through this line, this is either their great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather, that through that line they are first cousins with Naomi Judd, the country music singer. So little piece of genealogy worth checking into. And then we come over here. We haven't checked yet, but just by looking at the mounting of the ground, I would bet that there is a headstone right there. So this section doesn't so much have a name, but as you can see, it's been separated. So we'll come out here to this part of the cemetery, and we'll walk in over to an older part. So through the gates. Sorry about that. Okay, so we have here a granite marker. So this side you could probably call Morse Cemetery, the Morse family plot, because everyone here is Morse. So you have George Morse, born in 1834 and died in 1904. Then Scott, who was born in 1915 and then died in 1918. So grandfather, grandchild, possibly. We come over this way, and these are a little bit more legible now. We use D2 to take some of the grime off the surface, and it also really helps because the moisture stays in the letters longer and gives it a little bit of relief, contrast, and we can read it. So this is Katie Marshall Morris, daughter of V.B. and E.A. Morris, died, looks like 1880. We photographed these when they were wet, so they may not be that great on the video, but we'll post the photos later. So this is a marker. Come over here. Always a good sign there's a footstone. We come up here, and this is a unique name. Haven't seen before. This is Alpha Omega, little son of Nelson C. and Cater Morris, who died March 18th, 1863, aged 5 years, 3 months, and 20 days. And there's an epitaph there at the bottom. Little cutout there. Okay. So we'll go around this side. Another footstone. Again, we've used D2. Kind of make these more legible. We have Nelson C. who died November 25th, 1871, aged, what looks like 13 or 18 years, 18 days. And here you have my husband. So this is to the side, and we have this tree growing out here, and we have this footstone there on the ground. So this might have been rotated, might have fallen off and been put back together again. We can see that some cement's been used to try to make a repair to the obelisk. We come over to the other side, maybe if I can get my camera to cooperate. Okay, we have Cater R., wife of Nelson C. Morris. Well, that's Nelson G. Okay, died September 19th, 1908, age 68 years, 7 months. So we come over here, and we have a WM footstone. So on the opposite end of it, we have a broken headstone that looks like it's been repaired with cement. We're going to guess this is William Morris, 53 years, 6 months, and 1 day. There's an epitaph that we photographed. But these are all loose. They're not in any type of base. They're just leaning against the fence. This is Harriet C. This is a full-length tablet. That's in really good repair, but it was found face down and covered. Harriet C., wife of William Morris, born November 21st, 1810, died September 2nd, 1858, aged 47 years, 9 months, and 8 days. We have an epitaph here that we photographed already. We'll go across. And here we have William Augustus, son of William and Harriet Morris, born, looks like May 29th, 1844, died October 5th, 1857, age 13 years, 6 months, and 6 days. Again, we've used D2 to clean these, and they'll lighten up. You'll kill off all the algae and they'll look nicer. This is Sarepta, daughter of William and Harriet Morris, born September 24th, 1838, died March 28th, 1863. This one does have a base. It has a little dove there in the middle. Probably a grave there. Too big of a distance. This is Mercy Morris, died June 18th, 1878. Near here we have a rose, an unbloomed rose. So this is probably an infant, newborn, or stillborn child. Next to them, we have Sanford Russell. So Russell seems to be a recurring middle name. So Sanford Russell, son of S.R. and Zona B. Morris, born June 20th, 1891, and then died June 1st, 1894. And there's an epitaph there at the bottom. This is a 3-piece obelisk, very unsturdy. And then as I was walking out, there's a footstone with his name. So we'll go this way, go on a little adventure here. So the property owner did tell us that there's these 3 cemeteries, and he's done well, maintained what he has. But he grew up in this area and has walked these woods for 4 decades. And he said when he grew up that this was there were a lot more fieldstone burials here. And it's, if you, again, go into a lot of rural cemeteries, you'll start to see some, I don't say botany, but plant life that is consistent with that. So not only will you see field stones, but all that greenery you see on the ground is laurel. And you'll see a lot of that in cemeteries. But he said this entire area had field stones. So you can see there's a lot of trees that are down. There's cedar stumps, again, something that we see in older cemeteries. Walk around this way. So we thought we'd take a look, and underneath this large cedar tree or cedar stump, it's either been burned out or it's had a lightning strike. There's a lot of fieldstone that we found just under the surface, and on top of them were tree limbs. So we know these are more than fieldstones. There's scribe marks from where they're cut. There's chiseling on the corners to make them square and level. What we haven't found, though, is any genealogical information, names, dates of birth, dates of death, stone marker cuts. But we see where these have been prepared stones. The exception to that being that we did find this marker for D.M. Mick. So McCoy, McCall, we don't really know, but it appears though they died in 1832. And this was found in 2 separate sections. These stones were designed for slotted bases. They just took a gigantic block and carved out a niche in that wider base, set down in that niche. But as you can see, those are all prepared stones that were just hit by a tree strike. This is our cedar tree. So it's really hard to say what's over here. So the last part is a little bit further out on the end of what would have been the cemetery. So bear with me as I walk to it. As you can see, this myrtle just really takes over. I'm going to try and navigate these thickets and avoid any snakes in the process. But we've already been through here twice, so there's a good chance that there's no more snakes. And then we have this beautiful stone, which is Laura, wife of James Scott. And she was born September 15th. And I can't read the date anymore, the sun's moved. We'll post a photo. And she died January 30th, 1889. But, you know, we're a good, 200 feet from the main cemetery. That's all flat level land with small trees. It's been cleared at one time. Lots of laurel, lots of cedar stumps. Local property owner says they remember fieldstones. So this cemetery is probably much larger than what the enclosure is. But again, today we were visiting Shane Berry Cemetery and saw the Morris Cemetery along the way and found some fieldstones. But again, we are in Quincy, Lewis County, Kentucky. Thanks.